What's going on, everyone? Nathan Esposito here, and today we're talking about what? The number one mistake tax preparers, accountants, and bookkeepers make on every sales call. Honestly, guys, the one mistake is keeping a lot of extremely smart people broke. Not because they're bad at taxes, right? Not because they don't know accounting, not because they can't help people, but because they don't understand human psychology, right? We got to change that, okay? Listen, it's not about... What do you think it's not about? Ask yourself before I tell you. Okay? It's not about your service itself. Okay? It's not about the form you can fill out. It's not about the great job you can do with the bookkeeping. Okay? What it is about is human emotion. So today I'm going to break down the biggest mistake tax professionals make. Why prospects don't buy, even when they need help. The psychology that we got going on behind elite sales conversations, even word tracks, okay, and why certain phrases work and why certain ones do not. And one thing that I'm really big on is how to control a sales conversation without sounding too pushy. So let's get into it here. Obviously, grab a pencil and paper, right? That's one of the most important things you need to do. And then check out our courses over at Universal Accounting Center. Get certified in tax, bookkeeping, advisory. But let's get things rolling here. So the biggest mistake that accountants make on sales calls. What do you guys think it is? Pause the video, come up with an answer. Let's see if you're right. But what you guys do is you start teaching instead of selling. Okay, so stop teaching, start selling. What you go into, a lot of tax laws, deductions, right? Bookkeeping processes, compliance, entity structures, software, credentials. And the prospect, what do, guys? They mentally check out, right? Why? Because confused people, they're not going to buy from you, okay? Emotionally certain people, those are the ones that buy. This is one of the biggest lessons you must understand in sales psychology. All right, people buy what? They buy emotionally. When that's emotional, then they justify logically afterwards, okay? That means your job it's not what? Information dump. It's not to overload people with information, okay? Your job is to provide clarity, make it simple, and make them feel certain. That is what your job is, to provide certainty for them. Write this down. I call it the professor trap. All right, most accountants become professors. You ever notice this, guys? Yourselves. Look in the mirror, right? Michael Jackson, the man in the mirror. Look in the mirror, right? The prospect says, I need help with my taxes. I think I need help with my taxes. And the accountant, what do you guys do? The tax preparer, what do you guys do? You know what you do. You respond with a 15-minute lecture, and that's a huge mistake. Because now the prospect, what happens? They feel overwhelmed, stupid, confused. Guys, they feel mentally exhausted. Okay, and exhausted people, what happens? They delay decisions. We don't want that. We don't want it's not a mental boxing match, right? We don't want to do that to people. So that's why you're running into, I need to think about it. Let me talk to my spouse. Can you send me information? I'm shopping around. You know, these are not usually price objections. These are certainty objections. The prospect does not feel confidence emotionally to move forward. All right, so we want to get past that there. So write that down, the professor trap. You want to avoid that, right? You don't want to teach, right? You want to show value, provide value, show outcome, solve problems, right? The things that close deals, those kinds of things, right? Psychology rule number 1, you need to write this down, all right? Whoever controls emotion controls the sell. So it's not about who controls the most information, it's about emotion. So non-information, emotion. So I want you to think about this carefully, right? Why do people buy luxury cars? Why do people buy Rolexes? Why do people buy coaching? Why do people buy expensive gyms, right? It's emotion. Okay, so status, confidence, security, identity, relief, hope. Your accounting service is no different, guys. People buy accounting services because they want less stress, more money, clarity, confidence, safety, control. That is what you sell, not bookkeeping, not tax returns, not QuickBooks cleanups. You sell emotional outcomes, all right? And what are most tax preparers saying when I hear them talk, right? Most salespeople, it's you could swap out these words for anything else. It's all the same junk, right? I'll help you organize your expenses. I'll reconcile your transactions. I'll make sure your filings are compliant. Well, all of that to me is logical. That's logic-based thinking, but it's emotionally weak, more importantly. Okay, so let me show you how to kind of shift that psychology right there. Here's some better word tracks. Why don't you say this instead? What most business owners really want is clarity around their money. Okay, the psychology there, this creates emotional identification, right? And the prospect thinks, yeah, that's exactly what I want, right? Here's another. A lot of business owners feel overwhelmed because they work hard, but still don't fully understand where the money is going. So what you're doing there is you're verbalizing hidden emotional pain, and people trust who can describe their problems better than they can themselves. All right? Let me give you some more. My goal is to help you feel in control financially instead of consistently reacting. So the psychology right there is you're selling emotional relief. That's extremely, extremely impactful. Okay? Open-ended questions. Write this down. Open-ended questions control the conversation. Open-ended questions control the conversation. That's huge. Another major mistake that accountants make is to talk too much, right? And guys, elite salespeople, and you are salespeople, but elite salespeople ask questions. Why? Because the person asking questions controls the conversation psychologically, right? Questions also create emotional involvement. People believe what they say more than what you say. So if I can get them to sell themselves, how much more impactful is that than me telling about them services? It's massive. So instead of bookkeeping is important because, guys, ask, so how has not having accurate numbers affected the business so far? See, now what happens is the prospect emotionally participates. And that's exactly what we want, because what that does is that changes everything for us, right? So why in the world do open-ended questions work psychologically? Well, open-ended questions force the brain to, what it does is reflect, okay? Visualize, emotionally relive problems. So write that down. Reflect, visualize, emotionally relive problems. That creates emotional urgency. That's why questions like this are so powerful. What happens if this stays the same for another year? Okay, so what happens there is the brain now is visualizing future pain. And you have to understand that humans are more motivated to avoid the pain than gain the pleasure. They would rather avoid the pain than gain the pleasure. So that's basic psychology 101. So if you can implement that into your sales game, my gosh, dude, it's big time, right? Here's another powerful one for you. What would it mean for you if your business finally became financially predictable? Now they visualize a better future emotionally, okay? And if you want to be elite at building a firm, okay, and elite at closing people, being an elite salesperson, you have to move people between, guys, their current pain and their future pleasure. So current pain, future pleasure. And that emotional gap right there creates buying behavior. So current pain, future pleasure. That emotional gap, buying behavior, okay? So you got to get good at recognizing the things you're saying and the way you're asking the questions that gets them to feel a certain way, okay? And then that's going to increase how much money you're making, right? The number one thing that, in my opinion, all salespeople do, doesn't matter what industry, is too much selling of the services. Too much selling of the services. What you have to focus on is selling the transformation. And especially what we do here is nobody wants bookkeeping, okay? Nobody wakes up excited to buy your accounting services. They want what it does for them, right? So once you can see it from that perspective, that really all they want is freedom, organization, profit, confidence, less stress, growth, right? That's what they want. So stop explaining the hammer and sell the house it builds, right? That's sales psychology. Write this down, the information trap. The information trap. I love this. It's another advanced concept, all right? The more information that you dump on a prospect, the lower their emotional certainty becomes. Okay? And here's why. Why? Because the brain burns energy making decisions. So too much information creates cognitive overload. And when people feel overloaded, what do you think they do, right? They delay the decision making process. So that's why simple communication closes. Not complicated communication. So what you don't want to do is stop trying to sound too smart. I think that's huge. You don't want to try and sound too smart. They already know you're smart, right? They wouldn't be in the building with you. Wouldn't be on the phone with you. Okay? So just simplify and show how much value you can provide through clear conversation. So you should sound, write this down, clear, certain, calm, and confident. Again, that was clear, certain, calm, and confident. Not walking around like an accounting textbook, right? I mean, you're freaking people out. That's why you're losing so many darn deals, right? The last thing they want to do is get on the phone with a dictionary, so to speak. No, you should sound clear, certain, calm, and confident, right? So tonality psychology. This is really big, guys. Your tone. Your tonality matters more than your words sometimes, right? You could say, I can help your business grow. But if you sound nervous, they won't believe you. So you have to understand that humans trust certainty, right? Your voice communicates confidence, leadership, emotional safety. That's why the elite closers, you got to slow down, not sound rushed, sound grounded, calm, certainty, transfers emotionally. Okay, so if I'm calm, that's going to transfer over, and that's what you want, right? Now, here's the real reason that prospects don't buy. Most accountants, guys, what do they think? They think, hey, they can't afford it, right? No, wrong. Okay, usually, they did not emotionally believe in the investment that the investment's going to change their future. That's a lot different. So you have to understand that your job is to build emotional certainty, trust, vision, and urgency. You can't just explain features. The business plan psychology, write this down. This is big time. You have to show people what they're getting back. Okay? You have to show people what they're getting back. And what do I mean by that? Simply, go in there with an idea in a way that you can take whatever's going on in their business, whether that's problems where you feel like they're losing money, and show them where they're going to become profitable by using you. Okay? So what you have to understand is, when and the other thing too, this is really important, I almost forgot. You need to have them write down everything, right? That's when the sales psychology becomes real. So when you're going over anything that pertains to their future, you need them to write that down. Okay, so in terms of how much money you're going to save the business in the long run by using you, you need to have them write that down and then say, hey, you can turn that into a trip to Disney World, right? Those kinds of things. Or you can turn that into a whole new sales training program for your team. Like that, but you need to somehow show them ROI. You need to find out a way that your business can do that. And there's many ways you can do it, right? So many ways. But you have to understand that emotionally connecting is the huge thing, and that emotion drives action and not your spreadsheets. Okay, that's huge. So the very next thing, these people are blowing me up. It's what happens when you run a sales team, right? And what time is it? It's 7 o'clock at night, right? We never stop. I just want to say this. If you are an accountant, a CPA, a tax preparer, a bookkeeper, look, it's not about becoming manipulative, all right, or using fake pressure tactics. I think everything that I go over when you watch in my videos is truly about adding value and you taking your business income to the next level by more sales, and then you being able to close more deals. And none of the stuff I do is weird. So understand, it's not about fake pressure tactics. You simply need to understand human psychology better, right? The accountants who make the most money are usually not the smartest technically. They're just really, 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 really good at communicating, right? They're really good at asking questions, the best certainty builders, the best leaders. And clients they're not buying accounting, right? They're buying trust, and trust is emotional. So I just want to say, hey, if you got value from the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. This channel is all about helping accountants, CPAs, bookkeepers, and tax preparers become elite communicators and closers so you can grow your business, get more clients, and actually get paid what you're worth. So, hey, drop a comment below. What's the hardest part of sales for you right now? Let me know. I'll see you in the next video.